Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see we got a good number of regulars here in the chat tonight. We're going to have a different kind of stream, I think, than we've done before. I've actually solicited in the Hobo with Wood Facebook group. I posted this up that we're going to do just a Q&A only. Had a lot of responses there with a lot of questions about how to do certain things. Plus, I've had a few patrons that have hit me up, and fortunately, a few of them overlapped. And we're going to try and address as many of those as possible. I don't want to go, terribly long, but some of these are some complicated and in-depth things to explain. Some of them are really easy. We'll try to address as many of the questions that have already been posed, and then if there's still time and there's still interest, I'll try and field some from the stream as well. But what I do want to ask you guys to do that are in the stream, because there are so many questions that are already out there, and I posted in the thumbnail, we're going to talk about eliminating overlapping lines. We're going to talk about variable text. We're going to talk about doing text in arrays. We're going to be talking about some of the shortcuts and hotkeys. It's a large list of things we're going to go over. So before you start posting questions in the stream, hold off until I say, okay, is there any more questions out there? And then you guys can start throwing them at me, because your question you may pose, someone else already may have, and it's already in the list, and it'll keep me from having to go over stuff. So we got a lot of folks here. And see, who was it that had to go make the cup of tea? I just want to make sure that he's back. Dave Redding. We're going to hold the entire stream up until Dave keys into the comments that he's back, because we don't want him to miss out on anything. Got a lot of folks, a lot of the regulars from all over, and I'm just kind of dragging my feet, because this is going to be a lot of information, and a lot of the Dwayne, I see you're here. We're going to talk about your question. There were a few that had come up, and I just want to make sure that those, they always can see that in the replay, of course, but I just want to make sure I give enough folks that if they don't have the notifications, or like a lot of you here, Chris, what was you here? You were here 2 hours early, or more. What'd you say? Sitting there just, I'm sure you weren't just doing that. But I want to get everybody here, especially those who have put out their questions. All right, let's see here. Yes, I see some of the comments about, I got, was in fact, did somebody reference losing a fight with the mower? Getting on down the road. Look, yep, I see, nice haircut. Yep, there it is. Yeah, Chris said lost a fight with a lawnmower. Funny enough, Chris, funny enough, I've already had to cut my grass twice this week, and it needs to be cut again. It's 3 times in a week because of all the rain we've been having. And it's because of all that being out there, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So I was trimming the beard up, and I just said, just kept right on and getting it and just trimmed it all off. So it was because of the lawnmower that I buzzed it all off. So yeah, I lost a battle to the lawnmower. That is a fact. Here's the name, William Coleman from Dallas. That's another local redneck, folks. That's another Gaston County. He's here within throwing distance at me. He's been bothered. He probably got more from the storm today than I did this afternoon. We've been getting hit hard. Jack's here. Hey, Jack. I imagine that's what you guys are saying the same thing. The loud boom. Are you talking about the thunder and carrying on in your area this afternoon? Because this Jack and William are just north of me, not far, but just they're in the same county. But last night at, well, I should say this morning, about 2:15 to 2 in the morning, a hellacious storm come through here, and it came up in an instant and was gone in an instant. It was here and gone before they could even get this emergency broadcast signal across the TV. And when it did come on the TV, it was already gone. It said, "Hey, severe weather warning for where you're at." And I said, "No, it's not. It was where you're at. It was already in the next county over." But severe storm here last night, and it was so fast that I did not have time to get out of the RV and into the shop. And the whole RV was just shaking in the violent wind. It was terrible. I had to go get my trash can. Was almost a block away. You know, it was ridiculous. So, and then today, this afternoon was another rough one. But I got the light end of that, but the north end got it. All right. Okay, so I see Dave's back. Yeah, Dave, I just shaved all the hair off. When I shave my hair off, I do look younger. He's back. He's got his tea, so we're good to go now. All right. All right. So let's jump over to the Facebook group and look at the questions that they pose there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at them. Some of these are real simple, and we're going to just do a real quick drive-by, show how easy it is. And then other ones that are more complex, I might skip over it and come back to it. But we're going to address all of these. And like I said, Dwayne is a patron, and he posed a question that had to do with he was struggling with arrays and the pencils and pens whenever you want to set up a text array with a template, finding the right positioning, and it's not always the same. Well, there's reasons for that, and they're frustrating as heck. And then there was some similar questions in Facebook. So like I said, some of them overlapped. So, all right, let's jump over here, jump. All right, so this was the post I put in. And if you're not aware of it yet, this is the Hobo with Wood group on Facebook. And I encourage you, like this is Kevin Hallbecker's post in the group. He did one of the windmills and painted it up. And he did some Boolean stuff where he added some words to it and painted it up. And it looks really nice. But this is where a lot of people share their stuff that they're doing. If you're on Facebook and you're not a member of the Hobo with Wood group, go over and sign up for that. And that's a quick, easy way for you to share what you've been doing. And that's where I posted this. I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. Show more answers. All right. I don't top on all comments. Okay. So a couple just hays, highs, and zimperfies. All right. Marty Alterson Jr., he had a question, says, when you're putting two boxes together, how does one eliminate one of the middle lines so it doesn't burn or cut twice? Now, this is one of the easier things to do in Lightburn. It is just an optimization setting in the laser cut tab in Lightburn. And so let me get switched over to Lightburn and get my laser control tab. All right. So what he's referring to is if we have two boxes in Lightburn, and if they were both on a cut path instead of an engrave, and they were docked up against each other, and you wanted to send this to the laser, and I'm going to turn mine off. So, okay. Right now, if you send this job to the laser, preview, oh, and I've got my Kerf on, so that's not going to work. 0, and that's going to bring up another point in a second. So now I've got 0 Kerf. Now preview, and if we run this, You see this cuts that first square out, comes to that corner, and then if I hit play, oh, see it come down here, and now it's cutting that line a second time. And that's wasted time, wasted energy. So in your optimization settings over here in your laser control tab, you click on optimization settings, and down here at the very bottom, remove overlapping lines. Turn that on. Then once you turn that on, you can set your tolerance here to where how close they actually have to be before Lightburn would recognize that as a overlapping line. And I think this is the default, which is 0.025, because I don't recall changing it. But now with that turned on, and say okay, and come back and look at that same thing again and look at the preview. What it's going to do starts, there we go. That starts down at the bottom. Does 3 sides of that. And then what it does, I'm going to hit play. Once it finishes that third side, it jumps to the bottom, and now it starts cutting that one shared side just one time. And if I speed that up, so that saves time on the amount of cutting and the amount of laser time. Now, I will caution you, depending on what kind of project you're doing, overlapping lines and putting stuff together like that can save you a ton of time with projects. But if you're doing boxes, if you're doing slots and tabs, and you can fit those together and tell it to remove overlapping lines and have it just go in and cut those out one time. But you don't want to do that if you're using additional kerf. Because if you use additional kerf and you butt them up against each other, what's going to happen is they're actually going to overlap one another and ruin your whole design. So be careful of trying to butt them up if you're doing kerf, and I'll show you that with this same piece. Let me jump over here and add my kerf back in here. If I do my 0.12 outward kerf and say okay, it's the same piece. I've not moved them, just select them and go to preview. And now if we zoom in real tight, technically they're no longer overlapping because that laser has now moved outward 0.12 millimeters on this square, and it's moved outward 0.12 millimeters on this square. And so now they no longer overlap each other, and it would actually ruin that design and would not work at all. So that's removing overlapping lines. That's pretty much the crux of that one. Let's see here. And I'm going to go back up where we got started. Yep. All right. That's there. Hey, Dimitri. Dimitri's here. Hello, Dimitri. I've seen a lot of good words just talking about you this week in Rolly Automation. Everybody's loving Dimitri. If you are greatly appreciated in what you do for Rolly and helping support the community, and thank you. This could be an all-nighter, maybe over 5 hours. No, we're not going to do that. Not if we can help it. And we can help it. Let's see here. With boxes, only dock flat edges, if any. Yeah, and if you're doing flat edges, you're not doing any additional kerf, or there's no reason to do the additional kerf. Oh, guy, we just got started and just answered the question about removing overlapping lines, so you probably haven't missed anything. Greg, I've actually got a really good video on I actually did all the math and explained how all that worked like a week and a half before Lightburn released the latest version that had the tape of work tool in it. And I was like, man, That's exactly what I just did before they had the tool. So now you could watch that video and understand what it's doing and why it's doing it. But in the live stream that I did when I had the guys from Lightburn, I had Joe and Adam join me in a live stream, and we talked about different things and new features that were in Lightburn. We talked about the tape of work tool there. But if we, and you may not have been in the stream yet, Greg, before we started, I've got a whole list of questions that were posted and share and asked in Facebook. We're going to go over all those. And once we go over all those, if there are still more questions and we still have time, I will address more questions like this. And but let's keep this rolling, keep this moving. All right, I'm gonna put me a roll of asterisk in here, and so I know where I stopped scrolling. Now let's go back over to the next set of questions, or next question. Switch. All right, so that was Marty's question. Thank you for your question, Marty. All right, Dale asks, says, please go over detail on variable text array. Variable text array. Now that one's a little bit convoluted, and I asked him, we went in for more, I went for more specifics. Says, are you having a specific problem understanding variable? And I said text, because there's variable text, and then you can do an array with variable text. And then he says, when inserting different names, like when doing pencils on your pencil jig. And that overlaps with the same problem and or question that Dwayne had, one of the patrons. He was wanting to know, hey, I'm having some trouble with the names and doing the pencil jigs. And I asked him if he was CSVs or just doing regular. He says both, but he wants to do CSVs. So this one is one that's going to take a little bit more time. And there are a couple, I think, on down in here that I can answer really quick and get out of the way. And I'm going to come back to this because this one, there's a lot to do with. And the fact that Dimitri is here, I had not thought about it until Dimitri shared in his calibration for the camera with the, and this is true for any laser with the camera. I do not depend on my camera at all. I use it as a tool to help me place my waist and to get a close proximity for placement. And then I'll check, and then I'll use the laser to check my framing, and okay, that was good, and then go with it. And I didn't think about it until seeing one of Dimitri's early videos with my relationship with Rolly. And that's the fact that he had a camera calibration for multiple thicknesses of material. So, and it makes sense if you calibrate your camera to this surface here, and then you place a piece of wood on top of it. Well, the camera, when it's looking at it, it thinks it's looking down here when it's actually looking up on top. So it's no longer exact. And the depth of perception from the camera changes, so the focus has to change, or the focal points have to change. And there's where you run into some of your problems with arrays and the pencil arrays and pen arrays. You can overcome it, and you can minimize some of your headaches if you are doing the exact same pencils all the time, or the exact same pens all the time, so they're at the same depth all the time. There's a slight variation, even if it's a 0.5 millimeter or more, then it can throw off your using your camera to place that. But we'll go over a bunch of that whenever in a few minutes. All right, let's go back down here to Facebook. So that was Dale's and Dwayne's. All right, Sharon says, thank you for your videos on making the Kerf test. And that was done with the boxes PY cut test, Kerf test. I tried it out yesterday, and what a game changer. My question regarding the Kerf test: can you use the 90-degree test to dial in the tab and slot for a shelf setter? Seems to me that it would work, but maybe I'm missing something. Also, thanks for the video on paste and cut, was print and cut, and also another game changer. And I had to ask her, a shelf setter? What's a shelf setter? And then she gave me some examples, and it's just little knickknacks that you set up. And she went to explain the cow has a tab in the bottom that fits in the slot on the base, and they have to be pretty snug to stay upright. Now, so pretty much anything that has an internal slot is a problem when you're trying to use Kerf, because the internal slot is handled differently, or you have to think about it differently than you do an external slot and tab. When you've got two pieces, let's see if I got two right here. Oh, you've got two pieces, and these are not the same size, but you're only coming in from here, and you need to make those line up and snap together. Whenever you do Kerf, when you add Kerf or add material to the outside of the design so you can make up for what the laser cut away, it's going to add it to the height or the width of that and to the depth of that slot. And it's going to do the same thing to that tab. So when they put them in there, they're going to match up and they're going to work great. An internal slot, you have to think about it differently, because, and she said 90-degree trick, but I think she was referring to the 45-degree trick where I turned everything 45-degree angle. But an internal slot, when you cut that, you cut an internal rectangle or square, and you add Kerf to it. Well, you've added Kerf to what would be the thickness, and you have added Kerf to what would be the width. So you've added Kerf in two directions. And now when you're going to take and try to insert your wood or your tab that needs to fit in here, with Kerf on this one, you only added Kerf in one direction. Well, still two technically, but one of those was what was going to be the width of the material, and it's sticking straight down through there. But you also added Kerf squeezing it together. So when you add Kerf to internal slots, and I will still do that sometimes, knowing that, okay, it's not going to fit. But then what I do, it actually makes the tab really snug in one direction and too impossibly tight on the thickness of the material. So I will take a little bit of sandpaper, and on my tab that's got to go into that internal slot, I'll just sand some of the material away and then pop that in there, and it's snug as a bug in a rug. But that's the problem with trying to add Kerf to internal slots. You're adding it to the width into what would be the thickness of the material. You're making it a skinnier hole, a narrower slot, but you're not changing the thickness of your material. Hence, it don't want to fit that way. So you have to be careful with trying to add Kerf to internal slots. And that's what she was trying to get to, is get as tight a fit as possible. So you can add Kerf, but recognize that when you do, it's going to make it really snug in one direction and almost impossible the other. But a little bit of sandpaper will solve that. So let's see here. Oh, wrong. Go back to comments. Look and see if there's any questions about that at all. Okay. So was that as clear as mud? Nope. Stacy says, also, if you add too much Kerf, your corners, if you add too much Kerf, your corners no longer square, they become curved. Found that out. Well, be careful there. Don't blow a fuse. Yeah, and I think I've seen that when the more kerf you add, it's no longer a corner. It starts becoming a little bit of a radius. But if you're adding your perfect kerf, then it shouldn't do that to you. Shouldn't, because you got to add quite a bit of kerf to do that. All right, I'm gonna put some asterisk in here so I know where we're at. And come over here and go down. Let's look for the next question. All right, that was Sharon. Okay. So Michael asks, thanks for all your videos and help. My question, some SVG files or any vector file that you get from Etsy or the free SVG laser cut sites have issues when trying to alter the tabs and or slots with the tab and slot tool. What I've noticed is that when zooming in, it looks like at the tabs, for instance, instead of it being a corner, it has rounded edges, thus preventing you from using the slot and tab tool. Is there a way besides node tool to fix this without going through sometimes 60 or 80 tabs and slots to get the corner square? No. It's not an easy fix. And that's why whenever I put my files out there and put them on hobowithwood.com and they're out there for sale, I say emphatically they are Lightburn friendly. They're going to work with all the tools in Lightburn because they were designed in Lightburn. What you'll find with a lot of the files out there, the reason they're not working on the resizing slots and tabs, Lightburn doesn't recognize it for multiple reasons. One of them, and the most popular one, is the fact that they are not corners on the tabs. And I'll show you quickly if I go to boxes. And this is why, and if you've noticed for regular viewers, I've been using Gravini more than I have been using boxes.py lately, because Gravini it has a little more features on it. It's a little bit more user friendly, and it's also a lot more Lightburn friendly. But if we go to boxes.py and I download, or we go to this one box right here, and I'm not going to change any of these settings. I'm not going to change anything at all. But if you use boxes.py, you need to come down here when it asks you for your default settings for your inner corners. You need to make them a corner, not a loop. Make them a corner. And let's see here. In fact, let's see if I can. It's been so long since I've used this. I want to see, that's the inners. Actually, I want to show you the loops. We'll generate that. And come on. Back. Download. No, stupid. Lightburn. New. No. Import. Downloads. Box. Open. All right, so there's the box I just generated, and we'll put it in line mode. And we go in and zoom in real tight. See these loops? That's a no-go. And then here on these corners, we have radiuses instead of corners. And when we look at, we have to ungroup it and go into node editing. Did I ungroup it enough? There we go. At a glance, it looks like there's 4 nodes right there. But if we zoom in real tight, there's a node, there's a node. Then you got, that's one node, but it's got a loop on it. And then you got the 2 down here. So you got 2, 4, 6, you got 6 nodes right here making this up. And Lightburn will not recognize that as a slot or a tab. If I measure that, that's 2.9. And if I tell it to resize tab height of 2.9, and we'll give it a 0.5 millimeter of play, it doesn't recognize those. But if I go into node editing, grab that, delete. I'm going to delete the two outermost on here. Tools, resize slots and selection, tab height. Now, by just deleting those two nodes out there, because even though this loop is here, it's still just one node. So now I have 4 nodes right here in Lightburn, and it will recognize that one singular tab as a tab. And then you could tell it whatever size you want it to be. So if you find yourself in a situation with a file that has these radius on here, these radii, then what you can do is, even though if this was exactly what you needed it to be, whenever you change this, just select one and hit the letter D, delete it, and go down, grab the next one. This is what he was talking about. Is there an easier way? I have not seen an easier way. Clean all those up. And once you clean all those up, then when you go into your tools, resize slots and selection, it now recognizes those, and you set it to whatever you want it to be. And then it's Lightburn friendly. But you don't have that problem with Gravini. And another issue you can have is, and that's when you do the design or you do the box generator in boxes.py. Another issue you can have if you get it from Etsy and they've generated it on AI or anything else, Inkscapes, all kinds of stuff. If there are more than 4 nodes in either a slot or a tab, Lightburn doesn't acknowledge it as either or. And you just seen that I made those tabs. But if there's a random node anywhere that makes it more than 4 nodes, it no longer will recognize it, because I put a random node here in the middle of that, one over here. It only recognizes 4 nodes here and here. And some of you have seen the trick that I'll do to differentiate between a slot and a tab, because right now I'm telling it to change tab heights, because that's what that is. It's a tab. But if I tell it to change slot depth, I would have thought that would have picked that. Oh, maybe it's my tolerance. I would have thought that would have picked up. I expected it to pick that up. Why didn't it pick that up? Go here, 3. Yeah. Don't know why it didn't pick that up. But whenever you've got, find yourself in a situation where it's recognizing it as a slot or a tab, then you can go in, resize slots and selection, slot depth, tab height. You can go in and add a node to make sure that it eliminates that possibility has been mistakenly identified as a tab when it's supposed to be a slot. All right. Looking for my asterisk. There we go. All right. All right. Mike says if you added Kerf to an internal and cut it 90 degrees, the shape of the laser would make up some of the difference, right? And again, you said 90. I'm guessing you're talking about when you rotated at 45. I'm not sure which. If you do an internal, regardless how you cut it, if you do it at the 45 or if you do it at 90, because not all lasers, not all diode lasers are elongated in the same format. Some of them have a longer X, some of them have a taller, or vice versa. So they're all diodes are rectangular, but some are this way, some are this way. So regardless, when you add Kerf to an internal slot, it's going to make it really super snug, and maybe even almost not wanting to fit until you sand some of the material off of the tab going in it. And that makes for a real snug fit. So if that's what you're after, it's not a bad idea to do that. Just know going in that you're going to have to sand down those tabs going in that internal slot. What I like about Gravini over Boxes PY is you get a live. Yes, I like that. You can see it in real time. I think I'll add a feature request to Lightburn for a tool to square selected corners to fix tabs and slots. I talked to the owner. Was what I think they call him Oz. Just went completely brain dead at the last year's LBX about this situation, and he's the problem is knowing which nodes to get rid of. There's no easy mathematical equation to say, because there you've seen there was two nodes to create that radius. So which one of those does it need to get rid of? And if there's 80 tabs and that makes 160 radii, that it's got to figure out which one of those to get rid of. He just said, no. So I don't think that's a possibility. There are some things that Lightburn is really, really great at, but then it does have some limitations. Looking, yep. All right. Jeff said, yeah, Oz. Yeah, I thought he goes by Oz. His name Jason. Jeff says it didn't pick up on the slot because of the corner loop. And it's weird because it's still just, it picked up on those nodes for the tab. So if it picked up on those nodes for the tab, it should have picked up on those nodes for the slot. I've been so long since I used Box. My advice is don't use Boxes PY. Use Gravini, and you won't have to worry about any of that at all. But when you find yourself with those problems from files you've purchased from someone else, just know you're going to have a nightmare of a time. In fact, if you someone had posted a comment in one of the groups that said that they had bought a file and contacted the person and said, hey, look, this doesn't work in Lightburn, and there's so much that I got to do to make this right. Is I'll be glad to pay you for a version that does work in Lightburn. And the guy simply said, you know what? I'll just give you your money back because it's too much trouble to make it Lightburn friendly. So the guy got his refund back from the Etsy seller because it was not Lightburn friendly. So you might ask or inquire if you're looking at buying a file from an unknown source, hey, is this Lightburn friendly? Do you guarantee it to be Lightburn friendly? In the event that it doesn't work, do I have a recourse or can you refund my money? But any files you get from hobowithwood.com are Lightburn friendly. Okay. Tim says, why can't I create an account in Gravini? I don't have an account in Gravini, and I've never tried to create one. I don't know that it's a requirement. I use it frequently and don't log in. So just try using it. And a bunch of asterisks, and we're going to go to Facebook for our next question. Facebook. Nope. Yep, there we go. All right, get rid of you. Get rid of you. Get rid of you. And switch. Okay, this is a quick one. Kevin asked, well, thank you, Mr. Hobo, for this opportunity, LOL. Up in the font section, would you explain the 4 right options, what they are, what they do? And he's referring to the align X, align Y, the normal, and the offset. And this is a little bit of the way that it's laid out in Lightburn, it's a little bit deceiving. They have to do with fonts, and that's what they have in common. Or not fonts, they have to do with text. They have nothing to do with fonts. They have everything to do with text. And the X and the Y, a line X and a line Y, they have to do with the justification of the text. And those two are in and of itself one thing. And then the normal and the offset, they have to do with the text type. And then the offset has to do if you're going to be doing the doing variable text, and you're going to have it. You're going to be creating. If you're doing variable text, doing an array, and you're doing serial numbers, or you're doing something that is going to be required to have numbers, or you're doing a clock face. If you do virtual text and you do a clock face with virtual text, then you can tell it to offset by 1, and then so to start, at 1, if you start at 1, and then it automatically advances 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you tell it to advance or offset by 2, then it's go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You need to do something by 5s. You tell it offset by a factor of 5. So they're all text tools, and I'll show you. Switch. Let's go new. No, I don't want to save that. All right. So right now, my align X and my align Y are both in middle. And if I come over to my text tool, and this is something that can be, if you remember it, number one, if you remember it, it can make doing some of your designs quite easy. So let's see here. Let's do all caps and do bold, and let's change it to Arial. All right. This is not spelled right. Justification. All right. So that's middle. And if I want to put a rectangle around here, that's part of the design process. It's going to be, and we'll do an offset. So, okay. Now I want to put that in align mode so I can grab that. Okay. So now I want to have this text go into the selector tool. There we go. I want to have this text over here. Well, you could do this one of two ways. You can come up here and put your text in and say this, and put in the next line is, and the next line, and that would be spelled out. And then you select them all, and you align them all to the left side. And there you go. This is left justification. And you can get it that way, or you got that and it's centered up here. The whole reason for this align X and align Y is so you can change your justification, and we're going to change it from middle to left. So it changed it to where it's now left justified, and that they don't work as to me, they're not as I would think, okay, I want that left justified, and then I would, instead of top, middle, or bottom on the Y, I would say, now, okay, make it that also left. But there you put that. It's all justified, and you just got to center it up. You don't have to do individual lines. But now with that selected, if I want to say, you know what, make that all right justification. I moved it all over to the right, and there you go. Now with that box there, I'm going to put this back in the middle, centered up. And now when you change your Y justification from middle to top, it drops the top of the line to where the center of that text was to begin with. And I don't do the line Y as much as I do my X alignment for right and left justification, because I have not found a real need for my align Y yet. But that's all that is. It changes the justification from top, middle, or bottom on your Y axis, and then right, left, and middle on your X axis. Now that's for doing text. Now this is a squirrel. We got shapes. Now, you can take and select all of them. And once you've got them all selected, tell it over here to align left. And it's going to align all of them to the left of each other. I'm going to undo. You can also select them all and hit the letter L. That's all I did was hit the letter L. Undo. Now I've got them all selected. I'm going to hit the letter R. It aligned them to the right side. And to make that more noticeable, I will shrink them down and make this one a little bit bigger. And now left, right, top, bottom. That was T and B for top and bottom. So those were some key shortcuts for alignment when you're doing objects. And that's one of the questions that we're going to get to here shortly, is about all of the shortcuts. And I have spent the last 48 hours putting together this massive, super all-inclusive shortcut list for everything in Lightburn, and I'm going to give it to every one of you for free. I did all of this. There is a printable shortcut that I'm going to show you that you can actually print it out and you can have it right there beside your keyboard. But there's another thing that you should just start paying attention to. Because when you see this list of all the shortcuts and all the hotkeys and all the possibilities, you'll never use them all. Never, never, never. And it'd be impossible to remember them all, because some of them are so similar. Because is it just T or R, or is it Shift T and Shift R? And but what you can do is, if you're doing the same tool constantly, before you click on that tool and open it, just hover over it and stop. Put your mouse over that tool and wait 2 or 3 seconds, and it will populate a menu bar. And if there is a shortcut, a keypad shortcut, it'll tell you what it is. And that's how I found Control 2. Control 2 is, if I go up to switch here, if we go up to tools, is it tools or edit? I can't even remember where it's at now. Arrange. Yeah, arrange. 2-point rotate and scale. That's the one that the Control 2 I've demonstrated to you guys a lot. But right here, you can click on it and open the tool. But right there is your keyboard shortcut. And that's true for any of them. If you're going into your cut shapes tools and you're using cut shapes, well, instead of just clicking on it, look right there. There's your keyboard shortcut. Alt-Shift-C. And there's all of your keyboard shortcuts for all of those tools. But if you are, let's see here, we got to select a cup. And now I found this week. I found an error in their labeling. At least it doesn't work for me. Go back here. if I select all of those objects, and now I've got my alignment tools up here highlighted, so I can do align left, center, justification, align right, top, middle, vertical centers rather, and bottom. If you hover over that and wait, there it is. There's your menu, and there's your shortcut. And it tells you what the tool is. Align selected objects on their left edges. And then it shows you the keyboard shortcut. It'll time out and go away, but there it is. And it's either control / and command, and then and shift, and then the arrow to the left. So since I'm PC, I should be able to hit control and then my left arrow, or control shift and my left arrow, and make that align left. And it don't do it. Control shift and my left arrow, and it won't move. But since we're talking about shortcuts, and I know it's a question coming up, we're going to go ahead and go to that all-inclusive printable shortcut key for everything in Lightburn, and see what it says on there about the keyboard shortcut for this command. So and this is, if you don't know how to get to the online documentation for Lightburn and you don't use it, shame, double shame. If your Lightburn's open, if you go up here to help and you come down here to online documentation, that's going to open up a brand new window in your Explorer. And that's going to take you to the home page. Now you can start searching for anything in particular, or if you like to read the documentation, you can start reading through there and see there'll be things that this does that you didn't know it does, and you didn't know to search for it because you didn't know it to do it. But they also list the features of the latest updates. But if you go up here to, you went into the online documentation, you go up here to the search bar, and you just start typing, or hotkeys and gestures. It's going to give you all of the hotkeys down here, and you actually have a way to create your own hotkeys. So if your brain is a bit scrambled and their stuff doesn't make much sense to you, you can create your own and save them, and it's pretty cool. Version 1.3 added a hotkey editor, so you can customize most of Lightburn's shortcuts to your own liking. And it tells you how to do all that. Then general usage hotkeys. Here's all the hotkeys for the mouse. Here's the keyboard, move, menu hotkeys, edit hotkeys, vector tools, image tools. You just keep on scrolling. Here's all the hotkeys. And I was wanting, here we go, align left. All right, see here, align left. Can I help? Yeah, align left. It still says control, shift, and an arrow. And it don't work. It don't work. But if you go all the way to the bottom down here, here is your printable hotkey guide. Download that puppy, or not, you can print it right there, or you can download it. And this is what it looks like. I spent a lot of time putting this together, folks. A lot of time. Somebody did. But here is all you ever want to know about shortcuts and keys. And it is printable, but I can promise you, you'll be better off just when you're using tools all the time. Don't just click through that menu selection. Look and see if it's right there. Alt-Shift-H or does it come up in the description? And you'll find those tools to be very helpful sometimes. I still find it useful just to do my menu and selection. Especially if it's something I can do with the mouse with 2 clicks versus having to twist this hand into a C chord and then do a double click over the, I'll just double do my mouse and be done with it. So that's the hotkey printable guide. And that's the left justification and the right justification of the text and the top middle justification. There was one other feature on there, which was the two different, or the had to do with the type of text, and then that, and I explained that about the step or the offset. So, but back over here, go back to Lightburn and get rid of that. Put some text up here so I can have that open. Now here, the normal, that is just what it is. It's for normal text. And see if you hover over there, that pop-up menu pops up and says text type for variable text, serial numbers, dates, or CSV merge feature. If you're going to get rid of that, there you go. If you're going to be using variable text, or if you're going to be importing CSV files, CSV comma separated value files, that be from like Excel, or if someone's giving you a list, a database, and they want to, they need I don't know, awards done, and they can give it to you in the form of a CSV file. That will keep you from having to go in and enter up Chrissy Davis, first place, Mark Jones, third place. They've given you a list of everything done, and it's all organized in a nice. Now you can create your variable or your virtual variable text, import to CSV, tell it offset by 1, and we're not going to go into this in this quick Q&A because that is an in-depth thing. But that's what those fields are for. Is you've got to, once you've got your text, any text is on there, you can change it from normal to date and time, serial numbers, cut settings, and I didn't change it over. There you go. Date and time, merge CSV files, serial numbers, and cut settings. So those, some of you will never, ever, ever, ever use that. But that's what it's for. That's what the question was. And we've got that answered. So I'm going to scroll up and find my asterisk. There we go. Okay. All right. And also, don't forget to put a question mark preceding your question so I know it's actually a question and not just a comment. I don't want to, I'm trying not to miss anything, but, and I encourage you to converse between yourselves. But if you have a question, direct at me, put a question mark, preface to your question. I'm psycho. So yes, Kevin, I'm happy to answer your question. I hope that helped. And a great big, huge thank you, Moses. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll talk more about the super thanks in a little bit. We're at 1 hour now. Okay. Show my mouse. So that's a trackball mouse. This is the Logitech, I think it was, the M575 or Ergo M575. This one is a Bluetooth mouse. And I've had this one now for a little over a year. I really like it. It makes it so much easier. I was told, early on, in my early days, I was doing everything with that stupid pad on my laptop. And then when I started having all these struggles from the laptop, and I got the new computer, actually I got the trackball mouse before I got the new computer. But that trackball mouse makes designing and moving around and navigating so much easier and so much more friendly. All right. Now back to questions, and let's put some more asterisk in here. All right. So there was my cutoff for that, and back to Lightburn, not Lightburn, Facebook. Okay, so Brad asked about lubrication on uh, the rails, and this be for the Rolly or any of them that have the linear rails. And you'll see a bunch of different things. I think even some of the laser manufacturers will include a small little thing of paste. In fact, Dimitri, if you're still here, what do you use? I'm in the same camp as Clack, where I'll use just a little bit of 3-in-1 oil. I don't do WD-40, but I keep it clean, and I use just a little drop of 3-in-1 oil, or it's like sewing machine oil, because I'm cleaning mine regularly. But I find that when you use that paste, it tends to want to get a. And Dimitri says he uses white lithium grease. I've the paste. It gets really black and gummy, and it wants to collect the dust and the debris. I don't see that accumulation happening with the 3-in-1 oil. And like I said, but I'm cleaning mine real regular. So I, it, it probably come down to that too. If you clean it often enough, even with that white lithium grease, if you start seeing it getting gummed up or black, or you ain't cleaning it often enough. And I'm guessing, Dimitri, that's what's in those little tubes that come. And I don't recall. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. This is what I was looking for. Yeah, no, this one not. This is my little Rolly. Wait a minute, is that it? No, what is it? That's my cleaning cloth. I don't recall if Rolly put any grease in their kits. But I think the most important thing is you keep it clean and keep it lubricated, and you're going to be okay. Yeah, Chris, that's that's what's on that tube. I don't know. Let's see, what's Dimitri saying here? 3-in-1 oil allows the soot to penetrate into the. Okay. When the rail starts heating up. Okay. Well, I will heed Dimitri, and I'll stick with the. Yeah, no, he says, yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't. Oh, wrong button. It did not come with the grease. So white lithium grease is what he's saying, and it doesn't take a tremendous amount of folks, and that's another issue. If you're putting so much on there that it's for it to cake up on, yeah, no. Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, the weather has been frightful. Hope you're safe. All right. All right. Let's see. And switch. So we talked about Brad's, and I covered the shortcut keys for Dennis when I talked about that for Kevin. And Craig saying he's just not going to be around. All right, so that's all of those. Now we are at 1 hour and 5 minutes. The one thing that I didn't talk about was this one up here, the variable text array. All right. I'm going to bet that maybe half of you aren't even aware of what a variable array is. And then when you add text in with a variable array, that's another component. And so this, like I said, this can be a lengthy discussion, and that's why I wanted to save it toward the end here. And then if we still got time, we'll go over some of the other. But let's go back up before I move on, find my asterisk and make sure. All right, there we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Well, Brad, thank you. Have to call it quits. Back will not let me see you any longer. Well, hopefully you were here for me to cover your question, and I thank you for your question and thank you for your support. Okay. All right. Asterisk. Done. Now, virtual arrays. And then specifically, this was about arrays, virtual arrays in text, and the pencil jigs is what both of them referred to, I believe. And I've learned a lot since I made my first jig. And let's go over here to Lightburn, because I'm learning daily, weekly. Anytime I turn on Lightburn, I'm still learning new stuff. Delete, done. All right. Let's say, first, well, all right. This is so much information. I'm almost up. We're just going to start at the beginning. A virtual array. What is a virtual array? Well, if it can be, you can do virtual arrays with objects and or with text. And for right now, I'm going to do. I'm going to create a quick template. And so I'm going to draw out one of my 300 by 300 squares. That's how big my material that I work with most of the time is. So let's lock the aspect ratio until at 300 millimeters. And I'll put it in the bottom left. Now, if I wanted to make a template on this material right here, and let's say I needed to, somebody called me up and said, hey, I want to do some 3x2 business cards, and they wanted them wooden. And right now, if you guys see that I'm in metric, I'm in millimeters, I'm going to unlock my aspect ratio, and I'm going to come up here, and instead of doing the math to figure it out, I know 3x2, I can just tell it 3 IN and 2 IN for inches, and it's going to do the math for me. It will convert that 2 IN, you do the number, space, and the inch IN, and it'll do all the math conversion for you. So there's that. I'm going to put it on a cut path. And now I need to see how many of these I can get on my 300 by 300 material. So I'm going to come down here to my array tool. I'm going to create my first column, and I can see here my Y spacing. Since these are rectangular, and I'm not going to need to do any kerf on them, I could actually set my X spacing to 0 and butt them up against each other and use my eliminate overlapping lines to cut down on the cutting time. Here, I'm not going to have room to get a fourth one in there, but if I come down here and do Y, now I can do the same thing here, butt them up against each other. And there's how many I can get out of my one sheet of material. But that was doing an actual array. And if I say, okay, ungroup it because I grouped them all. These are individual pieces that can be moved and pushed around. If I go back, and do the virtual array, I move this out of the way so I can see. Right here, create virtual array. That looks different now. You've got a bunch of dashes around here instead of actual pieces. And if I say okay, this is the only thing that's actually live and on Facebook, or not on Facebook, that's in Lightburn. I can try and select these over here, and they don't exist because they are virtual. So what I got now, but what happens with the virtual array, anything I do to this one will happen to all of these. So if I rotate this, they all rotate. They're locked together. So if I was to come in here and created a business card, I didn't want to do that. Come up here, say, middle. I need to change that to middle. There we go. All right, I just added this text on here, and we'll put it in black, and we'll put it in fill mode. Say okay. But it's only there. It's not in my virtual array. So what I have to do is select both the text and the actual piece that's there, and then right click, edit array, not edit array. I should add to array. I don't want to edit that. I'm sorry. Select them both, right click, and add to array. I'm sorry, right there, add to array. And then that's going to recreate that image, whatever I did. What if you can do 100 pieces of artwork in there, and then just select it all, and with the outer piece, right click and add to array, and it'll duplicate in your entire piece. So that way you can create, if you've got, and I don't do these, but some of you do cork coasters or slate coasters. You've got templates, or you use the, you've got different templates or ways that you can hold your material in there. You already got it preset. You just load it up and go. If you've saved that template in Lightburn, you can save it with a virtual array in that template, so that you can only have to change or create one of them, and it's going to replicate and produce the entire array for you. And you don't have to go in and set up your array every single time. All you got to do is edit the array. And let's see here. That was setting up arrays, adding text to arrays. But the problem with, and I'll bring in my pencil array, because that's what a lot of them were having problems with. In fact, let's see, I don't know. They were talking about alignment issues. And I think the alignment issues come down to the camera alignment and where the text was actually positioned to begin with. And let's see here. Let's go new. No, I don't want to save nothing. New. And let's open the pencil array. Open. Oh, where are you at? E-commerce. Pencil. No, not pencil dispenser. Pencil jig. There. Okay. Actually, before I go too much further down this, I'm going to look for any comments, questions. Okay. How do you lock the template so it doesn't get moved by accident? All right. Switch. I have opened up my pencil jig for doing number 2 pencils. And I have this set up with what my recommendations were for placing the pencils in here. The erasers go down here, and on your number 2 octagonal shaped pencils with this placement, you can generally get your fonts right in here, and it worked really, really well. As far as how to lock this in place, if I select, try to get up here. All right, I'm going to select all of those blue toolpaths. And with those selected, arrange and then lock selected shapes. And when you do that, no matter what you do, you cannot, I can probably move that pencil or move the pencils. Nope, I've got them locked too. So those little star or those plus signs up there, that's telling you that those are locked. So those pencils are locked. The outline of that's locked. And those plus marks tell you those are locked in shape or locked in place. And I have over here 2 different virtual arrays. I have a 12 text virtual array and a 24 text virtual array, depending on how many pencils you are wanting to engrave. So I have my template here, and the way this should work is if I select this up here, this 12 text virtual array, I can grab that, drag it over here, and tell it to go, hold my shift button and select that toolpath and tell it to align on the vertical center. And if I want, I can move it to the left. And that should put my font or my text perfect on that one, because I created my virtual text array with the proper placement to work all the way down here. And see here, it's actually starting to get a little bit high. So you'd have to play with it and tweak it just a little bit, depending on your pencils and also the font that you're using. Because I even put notes in here. I recommend using a text height of 2.2 millimeters, which that's where it's set. Use all caps, bold fonts, and increase your H spacing. Increasing your H spacing made it more legible when you're doing these little pencils. And since this is a virtual array, if I come in here to my text and select my text and just start backspacing and type in whatever I want, and why did my caps go away? Uppercase. Did I just get rid of my whole thing? I did. Undo. There we go. And there I didn't use all caps, but you can see it filled that whole virtual array. That's a little bit high, and so you might have to tweak it and play with it. And you would do that when you set up your own virtual array. Let's do that. Take this, I'm going to move it over here. And here I've even put in there the vertical Y spacing I had was 9.668 millimeters. So if I wanted to create a virtual array with my text from scratch, set up whatever text I want it to be. I don't know why my uppercase is not, I keep forgetting stuff because I'm really good at that. Hobo with wood. I've got my H spacing increased. I got 2.2. All right, so now let's center that in that toolpath and left justification. And now go to my array tool and these notes said I used a 9.668 on the Y spacing, 9.668, and how many rows? And that's not working for whatever reason, but that's okay. So you just come up here and you start changing it. You can change your Y spacing to whatever you see that needs to be. 9.7. Nope. 5. Nope. Was it 8.9? 99. 9.1. What? Not 91. 9.1. There we go. That's looking better there. Let's run on down our rows. Ah. So for whatever reason, this didn't work. 9.6, but 9.1 did. And Dwayne says this is where I'm having the issue. I have it all locked in after making the array. When I put the jig back in the laser again, the same position, none of the text lines up. Well, like I said, you see how easy it is to see that in advance. Now, are you having a problem with it lining up here with the jig, or the physical lining up on the laser itself? What's like here? I'm surprised it didn't work with those exact same dimensions that I created it with. Where is your alignment issue? Where are you struggling the most with this right here? Because you see how easy it was for me to dial that in by looking for the right Y spacing there. You just have to play with it a little bit back and forth. And what I recommend doing is, if you're going to do 12, then put in your, let's see, how many have I got here? I've got 14. So let's say I'm going to do the full 24. Put in how many rows you're going to do, and then come down here and check your Y spacing with your last one. And that's perfect. So if that one's perfect and your first one's perfect, then they're all going to be perfect. Because you can get it real close on here and here and here, but by the time you get to the bottom, it'll be way off. So create your entire array and then check your spacing from top and on the first one and on the last one. Center your first one and then find your optimum position with your Y spacing on the very last one. Let's see here. Looking, okay, there's asterisk. And guys, what I'm talking about are the things that I do, how I do them. How many times have I told you there's only my way? And that's the only way that you can ever do anything in Lightburn. Stacy says, I found most pencils these days have a plastic coating on the outside, not like the old days when Ticonderoga was just wood and graphite. Yeah, and that's why I say I've got some number 2s that I use. I like them. And I went through a couple. I went to Dollar Tree, didn't care for theirs. I think it was kind of what you're talking about. Kind of had this plastic coating like on them. But I found some on Amazon that done really, really well. What are all the numbers people are putting up? Thank you, Tim, for joining us. I appreciate you coming and being part of this live stream. I know that you're new because you don't know what the numbers are. The numbers are for in the live stream when I'm talking and I'm doing my thing and I'm not paying any attention to the comments. And in my early days, when I was instructing and teaching, everybody would just sit there and soak it in and take it in. And whenever I'd come back over and start looking, there's nothing going on. I'm like, y'all still with me? Y'all there? Anybody? Everybody awake? And so it does two things. One, it lets me know that people are interacting. They're there, and the different numbers are how many things they've learned in this stream. So Mr. Dale here, he's got a number 4 in here. So that's letting me know that he's learned so far 4 new things in this stream. And what I love seeing is, you got 5s and 5s, and people are going, wow, okay, so it's a productive stream. It's been worth their while to be part of this, and I say it's been worth my time, just to know that it's added value to somebody. I'm not just here to be pretty. So, and also, and look at there's no Moses with a big old 6. And the biggest reason for it is because whenever they're idle and no one's doing anything and there's no chat, then the algorithm for YouTube looks at it like people are not engaged in the stream or in the show or in the, so by keeping that going, it helps with the algorithm and helps my numbers with that whole thing. And they go, hey, man, there's a lot of interaction here. This might be something somebody else might want to check out. So thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing that up, because I'm used to the same 100 people being here now, and I wished I was seeing a whole lot more new faces, and I'm glad that you're one of them. And a lot of people have already answered that by the time I seen it. And I thank you guys for helping them out. Here's a question mark. Can you set up that template like you do for the variable array where you use a spreadsheet for your, yes. For the CSVs and the spreadsheets, yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. In fact, since you brought that up, I want to show you we're going to go back over here, get rid of that, and we're going to go here. I'm going to come up here to the help button, and I'm going to come down here to online documentation, and it populated a new window. Drag it over here for you to see it. So if I come up here in the search bar, and I don't know if it's going to be in variable text or CSVs or whatever, but I know that I'm wanting to know about the CSV files. So I'm going to do .csv, not BV. And here are all the different topics that have to do with CSVs. And here's what you're just talking about: variable text formats and CSV merge text format. If you just click on that, it's going to take you right to that information in the manual for Lightburn, showing you how to set all this up. You have different, and when you're using variable text, and so this is CSV, and then coming on down, you have different text formats. If you want to do variable text, you guys know I like to do my double D's. Here's D is for you displaying a number. So if you're doing a clock face, you'll use double D's for double digits in variable text. And that actually, I'm sorry, that's in cut setting text format. Double D's is in variable text. I thought that was at CSV. There we go. I went the wrong direction. Serial number formats. If you're going to do create serial numbers and you're not doing it from CSV files, you can tell it to start at a certain value. How many digits is it going to be? Are you going to do your double digit serial numbers? Or are you going to do 6 digits? Then you do all those D's. Do you want it to start with the letter or the number 0? Then you'd put a 0 in all those D's. And that way it would populate like that with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 until it get to the 5th digit. That's for serial numbers. And then there's your variable text formats. These single digits, double digits. So variable text formatting and CSV formatting is right there, and everything you need to know about Lightburn is right there at your fingertips. And there's another shortcut in Lightburn that was going to the help and clicking on the online documentation. But if there's a tool, in fact, let's see if this will work. If I go here, it's like that. It's like there. All right. Who was it that I think Brad? I can't remember. So whoever it was that asked about the align X and align Y. If that's your question, or if anybody out there tonight's got a question about, well, what does this tool do? There's a tool right there on the menu board, and you don't know what it does. This is super difficult. Pay attention. Some of you are going to struggle with this. Since I've got this text highlighted, I've got the option to change that align X and align Y. Now, if it wasn't selected, it's grayed out. But as soon as I select that, that's a tool that's at my disposal. But I don't know what it does. If I hover over it, it'll pop up. Let's see, you've got to come over here. Wait. Is it going to give it? It's not going to pop up. I thought it would. Normally you go right here, you wait a second, there you go, and you get instructions. But this one, there are no instructions. It's not telling me what it does. Here's the tricky part. Now pay attention. This is really tricky. With your mouse over that tool, hit F1. As soon as you hit F1, it's going to open up the Lightburn documentation that's going to be talking about those tools right there. It's going to take you to the exact page of the documentation for that specific tool. So you just place your mouse or your cursor over that tool and hit F1, and it will open the online documentation. Really hard, super difficult to remember. I think it even tells you that. But that is a cool way to get to the online documentation for the tools. But if it's not a tool, you want to learn about variable text or whatever, open the online documentation. There's that search bar, and you can just type in. And even if you're not exactly sure about how to search for it, you just start typing in the subject you're looking for, and it will populate all the different possibilities where it discusses it in the documentation. All right, now let me go back here to comments and make sure I've got everything before I go on to the next question. All right, Dwayne. This is where I'm okay. And we talked about that. Okay, so he says, I meant variable text for like different names or sayings and etc. Yeah, if it's in a CSV file, if you've got it in a common separated file, if somebody's giving you a list of names from an Excel spreadsheet, or they have a list of sayings and it's saved in that format, then yes, you can set up a virtual array that imports that in that CSV format. And what you have to do is you tell it to import the CSV file. And that's why I said this is a whole another topic, and that could take up an entire hour in itself. But you're going to import that CSV file. But once you import that CSV file, then you're going to use that offset to tell it to go, okay, I'm starting here in my CSV file. Now, when it gets to the next object to engrave, it needs to offset by 1. So it drops down in the CSV file. The next one is going to drop down. And it'll keep dropping down in your list by the whatever value you tell it to skip down to. All right. lining up on the ink pens, I think I need to play with the line spacing in the array. I assumed once it was locked in, I wouldn't have to do anything but put it down on the laser and make the pins. Now, the problem is I set this up, mine, if you're talking about with my array, I set it up with these number 2 pencils that I'm using. If you're doing ink pens or and are they wooden pens, like nice bamboo pens or something that you're engraving, I imagine they're quite a bit thicker in diameter than a number 2 pencil. And that brings into play what I was talking about before. That's closer to the laser than that number 2 is. So if you're looking at the camera alignment and trying to place it, then it's not going to work. If you're, and then just you, and I think that's also would affect over, I don't know. I'm not sure because I'm not doing any big pins, but it definitely would affect your camera stuff. But yeah, play with it. But once you get it set up and you're using the same pins and you save it and you lock it, then you should be able to put it right back down in the same place again. Should. Hobo's way is the only way to do things in Lightburn or Life. Well, you know, and for those who are new, that's a joke. There's a million ways to do things in Lightburn. I'm just showing you the way I do them, and there's nothing wrong with doing them in a different way. But for anybody to ever tell you that there's one way and the only way, or this is the right way to do something in Lightburn, well, then they think too much of themselves. I'm just showing you my way. Amazon basic pencils work good. I guess that you wanted to bring that up so I could see it, and it's not really a question but a comment. I'm pretty sure I get mine from Amazon, but I don't know if they're Amazon brand. Da, 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 da. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Let's see here. Priorities. Got to have your priorities. Okay. So Tim's and hey, this is all new to him, so he's just throwing a 50 out there. Here's a big 5-0. He's not even going to start with 1. He said, I've learned a ton already tonight. Oh, good. I'm glad. That's why we're here. And we'll have some fun along the way, too, I hope. How to make hinges. The one with clip type, so you can fold a material like a card. The one with clip. Not sure what you're talking about there, Armin. How to make hinges. The one with clip type, so I can fold a material like a card. I got living hinges, but I don't. That's are you talking? Where's my? You talking about a hinge like this? I'm not a big fan of that type of hinge because it's, in my opinion, one of the weakest possible hinges. But that's one hinge that comes to mind that you could kind of fold like a card because it folds. You can fold it completely up on each other. Is that what you're talking about, Armin? Dwayne says he's using the bamboo pins from Amazon. Like I said, I've not used any pins yet at all. I do the And really the pencils I do annually back to school. A lot of parents will get the grade school kids with their pencils with their names engraved on them, and I'll do a special. It was like, okay, if they get a couple of dozen, and if they wanted to buy some for the teacher, because depending on where you're at in the world, the schools are different. But here in the U.S., our teachers spend a lot of money. They're out of their own pockets to supply their classrooms. It's because so many of the kids coming in don't have the supplies they need and don't have the funds to get the supplies they need. So the teachers will step up. A lot of the teachers do. In some schools, they actually send a list home with the students of they need to go buy this many pieces of paper, this many pencils, and bring them all into the teacher, and then the teacher will disperse them out to students as needed, knowing that not all students are going to be able to do that. So what I do as kind of an incentive is say, okay, if you buy 8 dozen pencils, and we put Miss Johnson's class on them so that they are for her class, then they would also get a free pencil distribution box. My box that I use, it's like a straw dispenser. You can put 3 or 4 dozen pencils in the box, and there's just a knob for the kids to turn and get a pencil out. I'll give them a box with X number of dozens, and then get the engraving. But I once a year, back to school time, that I do any of that, and it's truly only pencils. I don't do many pens or any pens. Oh. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Now we are at an hour and 42. I think I've got all the questions that were pre-sent. I want to double check. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, view all. Yep. Got all that. Okay. So a lot of you are already bailing on us, and that's, we're at an hour 42. So it's a little over 90 minutes already. So it's probably a good a time as any to wrap this up. And I just want to, before you bail on me, especially those that are new to the stream, I try to do a different type of channel than most everybody else out there. I do want to be about, helping people understand Lightburn and different design techniques. This was probably the first time I've done a true Q&A with just Lightburn, no projects. I did this project Wednesday, showed how I created this box in Gravini, and then put that up on my website. But I do not get up here and promote product after product after product. And I'm missing the boat on that a little bit, but I don't want to be that guy. There's enough of those guys out there, and there's enough of those guys out there doing it, and they do a really good job of it, and you can trust what they say. I don't like doing assembly videos. I've assembled my last laser. I'm not going to buy another laser that requires me to put it together. This Rolly, take it out of the box. I had to screw the lid on it because it was in a separate box, but that was 3 or 4 bolts. That's it. No X and Y axis, no belts, no nothing, no squaring up, nothing. Just out of the box, plug it in, and you're ready to go. And I'm not going to be doing any more assembly videos of lasers. I'm not going to be testing new and of different lasers. And the problem with me not doing that is, and when I say I'm missing the boat, those are revenue generators. Those, okay, man, look, this is a really, I really like the Falcon 2. I like my Creality Falcon 2. It's a nice open gantry machine. and I enjoy using it when I do use it. And there are jobs that I do that require that laser, because not one laser is the right laser for every job and for all jobs across the shop. So to say one laser is the best laser hands down for any and all applications, it's not a true statement. But you got folks like Steve and Dave Ventari and Clackshack that are doing reviews on products, and they do a good job of them. And they do it in a way that they're not, saying insistent upon one being better than the other. They just give you the good, the bad, and the ugly and let you decide. You don't need another voice doing that. So I that's not what my channel is going to be about. But by me not doing that, I don't have the affiliate links that you can use to go over and buy your laser, and then I end up getting a kickback. Now, with that said, because I am madly in love with my Rolly, and I've bought the XW. I've got it coming on the first shipment. It's supposed to hopefully ship before first of the month. Fingers crossed it ships before first of the month, and it's here before the anniversary show. Hopefully. What I just do? No, there we go. And I do have, if you're considering buying a Rolly, if you used hobowithwood.com/Rolly, that lets Leo know that, hey, I've helped motivate you into making that decision and purchasing the Rolly. And that does help me out. He sends me a little thank you. I'm not going to get rich and retire off of it, but it's just to let him know that, I helped motivate you, or you liked what you've seen here and you want to help Hobo out. So hobowithwood.com/Rolly, but I'm not going to have link after link after link after link. And by not having that, it's really cut down on my ability to generate revenue on YouTube. And I didn't like when I was involved in the other channel, it was constant. Hit that super thanks, hit this subscription, join this, join that, sign up here, sign up here. I do have a Patreon account, and I don't even know if I even have a banner for that Patreon. I don't even have a banner for my Patreon account. If you want to become a supporter of hobowithwood.com, if you go to Patreon, it's patreon.com/hobowithwood. I've got 3 levels in Patreon that get discounts on all of my digital files on hobowithwood.com. The bottom tier is $3 a month, and they get 60% off all of the digital files. Silver is the second level, and they get 80% off all digital files. Gold is not the top, but gold is the one of the most popular. It's $20 a month, but you get 100% off of all of my digital files. I have over $500 worth of files on hobowithwood.com right now. And because I had jerks named John, and he put Johnny in his sign-up sheet, that signed up for $20, then went in and downloaded $530 worth, and then canceled his sponsorship and stole from me $500 worth of files for $20. I had to put a throttle, a governor on the gold tier. If you sign up for $20, you can download $40 a month in free files. So you can download twice the value of your support without a problem. If you find that, you've hit your download limit that month, and you're like, oh, he just come out with that new file, and I really like that, and I want it. It's a Mother's Day or a Father's Day gift, and I need it, and I can't wait the next month. All you got to do is hit me up through Patreon and say, hey, Steve, I'm Chris. I'm a gold sponsor, and I've already hit my limit this month, but I really want this file. I'll send it to you. No questions asked. Here you go. But this is the way that I had come up with to stop jerks like John from stealing from me. And then the top tier, if you're really feeling froggy, is the platinum level, and it's $5,000 a month. And for $5,000 a month, you get everything for free, and I'll come to your house once a month, cook dinner for you, and help you with Lightburn in person for as long as you need, for within a 24-hour period or so. But $5,000 a month, I'll come cook for you and help you in Lightburn, and then go back home until the next month. So I've got the Patreon is a way for people to help support me, and my patrons are who keep me going. YouTube does not. YouTube this month or this year I've been $400, $450 per month from YouTube. So thank you, patrons, existing patrons. I wouldn't be here without you, period. And I was trying to get out of the habit. Was trying to take another page from, because when I left that other channel, I started looking at real strong and heavy at the way Dave and Steve do their stuff on the Clack Shack and in their live streams. And you never see them doing the thanks or the super thanks, and they don't ask for it. And really none of you ever give it to them either. I did it one night to see if I couldn't try and spur you guys into, send them a little something, say, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for being here. But nobody took the lead or the bait and followed suit. I was the only one that donated. But having, conversations with others that are doing this, when they've got all those other avenues, those other affiliate links, then you don't need those super thanks. You don't look for them. You don't expect them. And I've tried to get away from that and not ask for them, and I haven't been, and I'm still not. But for you guys that did donate tonight, man, it really is a blessing, and I really thank you a lot. And I'm just know that this is my job. This is what I do. I do it because I enjoy it, but I'm also doing it to try and support myself. So if you could become a patron, patreon.com/hobowithwood. And if you can't do that, then hey, if you're in the stream and it is a good stream and you've hit that, I've learned 5 or 6 things this stream and it's been really beneficial for me, then buy me a biscuit, throw $5 in the super thanks and we'll go on. But I've got to figure out how to maximize my revenue without becoming a salesperson. I don't want to be selling you something every time you turn on this channel. So a lot of comments on here. Yeah. All right. So guys, thank you for tuning in. And I think I'm going to try and do this type of stream maybe once a month, maybe. Even for my patrons, I've often told them, I can meet with you online and we'll do like a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting and I'll help you one-on-one. But trying to coordinate each other's schedules, they don't have a camera, they don't have a mic, they don't have this, or just they're technologically challenged enough that is a real stumbling block. So I think this would be better because like tonight, there was 2 or 3 that had posted the same question. So a lot of you have the same things. And this one had a lot more numbers being generated. So a lot more people were learning stuff versus me just creating a project and saying, hey, look what I did. And this is how I did it. I'll do maybe a once a month Q&A. And what you need to do, if you're not a patron, at least and not everybody's going to be on Facebook either, but if you're on Facebook, get over there to in fact, let me share that link, copy. I'm putting this down here. In fact, I've got another surprise for you guys that are still here. Paste. There's a link in the comments to the Hobo with Wood group on Facebook. Get over there and join that group. And there you can post all the projects you're doing. But when I'm doing these Q&As, that's the first place I'm going to post up, say, hey, we're doing a live Q&A. What questions have you got? And then I'll feed the stream from there. Now, for the folks that are still with us, Monday's coming up on Memorial Day here in the U.S. There, you got it, Karen. And I made this video last Veterans Day, so it says Happy Veterans Day in the tag, but it works for 4th of July, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. I just didn't have time to edit this. Instead of closing this out with my Hobo on YouTube theme song, this is a song that I wrote back after 9/11, and it has to do with the colors of the flag. the U.S. flag. What do they represent? What do they mean to me when I look at it? And what do I think about when I look at the flag? And let's see here. I want to go to here. And boy, I hope I can do this right. Music. Working on it, working on it, working on it, working on it, working on it. Now, wouldn't you know it? It's going to freeze up. There we go. Finally. I don't know. I'm going to hit the play button and see if you guys, you in the comments, let me know. Just put a thumbs up or yes, we hear it, and I'll let you know when I'm playing it here. Actually, you know what I want to do? We're going to change this because this is actually a video too. Change this, maximize it. You know what? Present, share screen, share. There we go. Now I know you're going to hear it. And the lyrics are by me, the music's by me, but David's not here in the stream. But David Mercer is another laser user. His mom Jeanette is the one who helped me with the chords and getting the music from out of my head and on the paper. So thank you, Miss Jeanette.
America, America, home of the red, white, and blue. The red is for the blood that was shed. The white is for the innocence lost. The blue is for the sorrow we felt. In America, America, home of the red, white, and blue. The red is for the anger we felt. The white is for the peace that we lost. The blue is for the uniforms that paid the ultimate cost. In America, America, home of the red, white, and blue. The red is for the love that we share. The white is for the angels among us. The blue is for the tears that still fall. In America, America, home of the red, white, and blue. In America, America, home of the red, white, and blue. America, God, please send your praise on us and brotherhood with brotherhood in the home of the red, white, and blue. In the home of the red, white, and blue.
So for all of you that served or have family that is serving for us, thank you. Thank them for your service. And like I said, that's just what I felt when I seen the flag over the Pentagon. The suffering, the loss, the ultimate cost that's been paid. So thank you for anybody and everybody that served, all the veterans out there, for those still in service. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next week.